Frieren Season 1 is over. This series has given us a good slice of feet, an amalgamation of different heroic lessons, characters that all tie into what Himo the Hero's life lessons represent. However, like the passing of Himo the Hero, we are left with his legacy that we will never forget. We have a seemingly immortal elf to help us take us on that journey of what a true hero like Himo from the Heroes Party can do for life after war. Craft the Monk is the legacy of what Himo's legacy should have been remembered as. With the introduction of the animator's kink, the feet goddess Serie shows that between her philosophy of gatekeeping magic and trying to groom her successor from creating a small group of privileged individuals, that is entirely counter to what Frieren and Flame wants for the world. From Flame's perspective, that became inherited by Frieren, now Fern, in future Richter, Dinkin. Magic is literally for everyone and is meant to be enjoyed, symbolized by Flame's favorite rising spell, a field of flowers. By the end of the season, it makes perfect sense to wrap up literally everything we have come to find out about the story. Frieren does a magnificent job at using flashbacks to slowly reveal the biggest lessons of the story. This arc featured the most passing of the torch moments in multiple climactic fashions. Fern shooting replica Frieren, you're kinda spazzing. We've seen multiple ways of how a story can utilize flashbacks, from utilizing a macro perspective, culminating into creating one of the most epic moments of the series, and then play around with the timeline to make a more compelling story, like Yubel's. And the very last episode gave us closure to, wait a minute, there's gonna be spoilers, but if you guys made it up to this point, I mean, for everything in Frieren Season 1, most animes I dive into, I go cold turkey at first, not knowing anything, catching the secondhand hype. If I am hooked onto the series early, my feet intuition is telling me that there might be something extremely compelling about this series. Frieren is an anime manga where slice of pits is the main sauce of the series. Expect little pew-pews and massive explosions to be what makes it a typical shonen. However, the Mage Academy arc utilized the feet goddess and the super obvious pits of death as kind of the antagonist or future antagonist of the series. In reality, they're not villains, but provides a counter perspective to what Flame's vision of the world would be. Flame wants to give magic to everyone. Serie's perspective is making something that should be special like magic not special is a letdown for her. Yubel becomes the character like what Weirbo said, the world might be better off without her. Let's not give magic to crazies, guys. While giving magic to everyone is a net positive, there's going to be some drawbacks like Yubel stalking our favorite stay-at-home NEET, Megane. The last episode not only gave us closure to the entire Mage Academy arc, it gave us closure to many of the new characters introduced in this arc like Dinkin, Weirbo, Lernin, and of course, the character Frieren is at odds with the most between the animators, Serie. I like to call this the battle of the greatest feats. You like that pun, don't you? Dinkin and Weirbo's characters are probably the most important to how they tie in as characters, as the living flesh examples of what the Heroes Party accomplished by defeating the Demon King. Frieren helped inspire what made Dinkin become a mage in the first place. With this arc, her presence helped rekindle his love for magic that was used mainly for politicization and for military purposes. Weirbo's story was crafted perfectly. It showed that Himo's entire journey from the spectacular adventures from the greatest triumphants to just being a helpful person to ordinary people is the way that you should live your life. That was the whole purpose of showing Weirbo helping the lady that dropped her basket of fruits, what that was supposed to represent. We've seen Himo in multiple flashbacks, like in the craft statue episode with Zine, help ordinary people with menial tasks. It's those little things that people do for you that actually impact your everyday life that can have an even bigger impact than just only defeating the Demon King, which is still very, very damn important. Frieren is a story that uses the macro to explain the micro and how the micro can impact the macro. So Weirbo becomes a person directly inspired by Himo by helping Weirbo's people do menial tasks and just being friendly to them like a real hero would, or just as an average ordinary citizen. Even Stark taking a little bit of time away from his comedic relief is shown helping people at the end of the episode. That represents what Himo the Hero symbolizes. This is what I mean by Himo's Riz game reverberating all across of history and into future generations. Not only is Frieren unknowingly. Still Riz, decades after his death, he's got the entire population trying to be like him. That is a real hero. After Serie passes Frieren because of her potential, I mean, she did kind of foresee that this will happen one day. She literally passes everyone else after her. She even apologizes to sense that there are actually a bumper crop of test takers this year. This is another example of Serie's flawed way of thinking. While Frieren confirms that her intuition is absolute and always right, her closed-minded way of thinking prevents her from getting access to more people that have what she is looking for, like ambition, lust for power. I guess that's kind of the same. Being the greatest mage ever. There are certain attributes that Serie's looking for to match her ambition, because that's what it takes to be the strongest mage ever, right? At least in her vision. She's like one of those cultist, entrepreneur, influencer people. While Serie's way of thinking is more for times of war, that clashes with Flamme and Frieren's perspective as being mages for the time of peace. This is the biggest perspective clash of the entire arc, because you kind of need both. And that is what doesn't necessarily make Serie a villain or a true antagonist, because her way of thinking is actually necessary as well. You can't just chase weird stuff like feet spells, naked spells, and cleaning clothes spells. Explosions are necessary because this out of her mind green-haired stalking Meganist clone is on the loose, and that makes me feel almost as uncomfortable as how much some of you guys like her pits, you freaks. That takes us to the true, almost villain that just needs an ounce of love in his life after being abused by the feet goddess Serie for over 50 years. I love this aspect of learning confronting Frieren, because he ends up being what could be the opposite side of wanting to be remembered for all the wrong reasons. The entirety of the show is passing on a legacy of how to live your life in the most helpful way for humanity as possible, being that representation of how people should act and live their lives, being remembered like Himmel's statues, and his adventures being forever inscribed in the history books. Craft the Monk is the unfortunate example of the forgotten hero of what could have been. So learning comes through wanting to be remembered not only for himself, but to carry on Serie's legacy. Serie represents the crossroads between completely forgotten like Craft and still being remembered and revered like Himmel. Through Serie's condescension, her standing as like this all-powerful goddess, this forces some of her students to grow into these kind of anti-hero types. Maybe even going as far as becoming villains, because Serie, she doesn't necessarily value whether you're a good guy or a bad guy. She values the ambition. She values people that have talent and becoming only a part of this privileged group of people, the Cool Kids Club, that now has Yubo in it. There was a little bit of pew-pews in this brief interaction between Learnin and Frieren, but ultimately, it's about Learnin being a battle-ready mage in the age of peace. It's very contradictory. It's nice to prepare just in case of a massive war, but what are we doing here? Like what Frieren said, there is no point. We didn't kill the Demon King for us to just fight each other. That's not what life is about. What I loved about Learnin's character is they did some contradictory things about his character. In the previous episode, it showed that Learnin wasn't able to see through Serie's mana fluctuations, but in this finale, it shows that he can at least see Frieren's fluctuations, which might actually mean he can see Serie's, or he cannot. At the end of the day, that's what I think his character's lesson is all about. And that ties into one of Serie's redeeming qualities. Besides being a total dick to all of her students, she has no regrets. She actually remembers and cares for her students. She even remembers all of their favorite spells. If you guys watch this whole season, you guys are thinking what I'm thinking. She needs to pat them on their head, but with her feet, and tell them good job. And good job to you viewers out there. I know you guys are all working hard in your lives, and I wish the best for you. If I could pat you on the head, scratch that. If I could have Serie pat you on the head with her feet, I'd let her do it. I love Frieren because of the perspective bending and unique way it tells its story. I usually don't like much slice of life, but there are enough pew-pews that go along with amazing lessons that makes this show a complete masterpiece. This anime has been like storytelling 101 for me. I've learned so much. I will forever remember how a compelling story can be told even after the typical hero's journey is over. And I will forever remember how it exposed the storyboarders and animators that turned Serie into the feet goddess and turned the horn dogs into pit freaks. That makes the video that I made about that best joke in Frieren hit a little bit different, because you guys know we've all caught them red-handed. We've caught the Quentin Tarantino of feet animation. So let me know what you guys thought about this episode. This episode literally gave us closure to everything that we know up to this point with Himo the hero's journey, with Frieren being a part of the hero's party, with Weirbo and Dinkin. That is a perfect cap to how much Himo the heroes meant to them, how much Frieren has meant to Dinkin, what they've done by defeating the Demon King, and all the little things that they've done and how they impacted people's lives. That is telling us as a story what the author wants us to think, what the story is trying to teach us. Man, just be decent people. You never know how much you can impact other people's lives, even if it's just the little things. So Weirbo, Dinkin, Richter, all these other characters, they are all inspired by that history. Remember guys, Himo's riz is reverberating across all centuries. And if that can be remembered, that riz will keep going on and on. So yeah guys, let me know what you guys thought about this episode, what you guys thought about the entire series. I'm not too sure if I want to make a longer kind of a video essay part of Frieren. So let me know if you guys want to see a longer kind of video essay breaking down the entire season. So yeah, just let me know what you guys think. Do me a favor guys, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. Check out my blog at otakusen.com. And I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you guys on the next video.